And I said to her, I remember this very clearly, that this is about race. And Meg said, Mommy, I don't want to hear that. And I said, well, you may not want to hear it, but this is what's coming down the pike.
This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. You know, we don't talk enough about Doria. I get that there's not a lot of information out there, but actually, there is a lot of information out there. So today, what I want to do is I want to spend a little bit of time talking about Dorito and her educational background to understand what her role is in this whole entire psyops. For many of us that have been following the saga for the last several years, most of us probably have seen this photo before. Obviously, whenever they talk about Doria and Meghan's closeness with her mother. This photo also came back up in discussion after the Oprah interview when Meghan claimed that she wanted to unalive herself and her unborn child, stating that she had no assistance or help to get her through those times. And the reason why it came up is because this is Doria's graduation from the University of Southern California with a degree in social work. Mind you, Doria's undergraduate degree was in psychology. So you could imagine the debate that was going on pertaining to Meghan claiming that she had no resources to turn to. If you were like me, you didn't believe an ounce of this horseshit that Meghan was spitting out on a global stage. But we're not going to talk about that today. We're just going to stay focused on Doria and Doria's qualifications in this field. Now, as I was looking at this and thinking this through, a couple questions came to my mind. The first one is, did Doria really go to the University of Southern California? I mean, this is a prestigious school that is quite expensive. So then, naturally, the next question that came to my mind was, did Doria go to USC for her undergraduate as well? Because in order to go to this program, you had to have completed some type of degree, whether it be from another university or from that university itself. And I'm thinking, well, that's kind of expensive if Doria went to USC for 4 years undergrad and then another 2 years to get her master's would be costing her well over $200,000. And you're looking at the time frame here. Doria got this certificate back in 2011, which means she would have entered college like around 2005. Now, if you just came out of somewhere where you've been away for a while, would you really have that kind of money to be throwing around? I don't know. I just, thoughts that are going through my head at this moment. But looking at this, I was like, well, the only way to find out if Doria even went to USC is to dig into the USC archives. And that's exactly what I did. The good news is I was able to find Doria in the commencement book. So it does validate that she did go to USC and completed her master's in social work. What's interesting is seeing the university that Doria had went to for her undergraduate, which is this Antioch University in Los Angeles. I've never heard of it before until today, and boy, is it raising red flags. So this university is a radicalized Marxist institution. Their mission, literally, is to provide the knowledge and skills to lead meaningful lives and to advance social, racial, economic, and environmental justice. Their vision is to be the leading university offering learners and communities transformative education in a global context that fosters innovation and inspires social action. This is the university that Doria Ragland went to. On their statement of inclusion and diversity, because that's a main component to this university, it says, in radical recognition of our mission and purpose, we pledge to actively engage in ongoing development as a wholly inclusive community. To this end, we will consistently, deliberately, and systematically strive to be appropriately responsive to the myriad dimensions of human diversity, such that none are marginalized and all experience justice and empowerment. Moving beyond tolerance towards inclusion and the celebration of our differences, we will courageously embrace any resulting challenges as they arise, recognizing that the responsibility for this rests with each and every member of the community. How many times do you hear Meghan and Harry talk about the damn community? Like, they have ruined so many words for me. Anyway, we assert that we will move expeditiously towards our goals through an ongoing commitment to courageous self-examination and respectful and honest interactions, which will lead us to the creation of formal and informal structures, policies, programs, and services that will give life to these ideals on our campuses and as we touch the world around us. So yeah, this is the school that Doria Ragland went to. But what's worse about this is that this university or college, I would say, has a reputation for being psychologically abusive. Not too long ago, this whistleblower by the name of Leslie Elliot had come forward to talk about the psychological abuse and manipulation that this program that Doria went through indoctrinates its students with this social justice ideology. Here's what Leslie Elliot had to say on this podcast with Benjamin Boyce.
Did you have to build a frame? You're building a frame now? Like when you started to see it get stronger and stronger around you, how did you start to react to it or think about it?
I think it took me a little while to really understand what was happening. I mean, I wasn't completely culturally clueless, so I'm listening to things. I had discovered Jordan Peterson, for instance, not too long before starting that program, maybe around the same time. So I'm hearing this stuff. I'm kind of, but I think that I developed a way to understand it slowly. And I was at first just kind of engaging with it at face value. So the first course and I talked about this in the videos a lot, the first class where this was really introduced in the program was this multicultural perspectives course, which really seemed out of place in the program because my two prior courses and most of my subsequent courses have been more, even though they have that social justice flavor to them sometimes, some more than others, they've been more like developing different skill sets and working on different theories that you would expect you'd have in a psychology program, an applied psychology program. But this class was really like, it was taught at a very low intellectual level. Huh. And it was really reductionist. So it's like she was doing, as I said in that first video, the addressing model, which is using the word addressing as an acronym to cover a bunch of different demographic characteristics. So age, disability acquired, disability genetic, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, indigenous status. What is the N? National
origin,
maybe. Yeah. And then gender identity or gender. Okay. But so you get the idea though. And so it's like a binary scale where you can either get a score of marginalized or privileged.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this is being taught. And I'm like, why are we dissecting people in this way in a psychology program? Like, of all places, wouldn't we have a deeper understanding of humanity than that? How is that making any sense? And so I was kind of just grappling with these things honestly. And I'm sort of like, this was the first time I'd really had it served up really blatantly, not just like, oh, we're going to slide the pronouns in on the side, or we're going to, make some comment about white privilege, but it's just kind of in passing. This class was like right there in your face. And so I thought maybe this teacher was just kind of teaching from a more simple-minded perspective. Maybe this is just she's doing her own take on the curriculum, and I can actually engage with her and talk to her about why these things seem like illogical. And I didn't realize that this was like the distilled essence of what social justice really is. So yeah, it was kind of a gradual process of understanding it. And at that time, it was a lot of cognitive dissonance for me. I was really stressed. It was like, she can't really be saying this, can she? This isn't really what they think, is it? And I'm like trying to write these like long arguments against this stuff, really rational, like coming alongside and saying, well, I can see the points here and here, but when you look at this, like, this doesn't hold up. This isn't, we don't know something of substance about a person's character or experiences just by looking at their observable characteristics.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like it's pretty basic, but.
And the feedback that you got?
She told me at one point that I should use my white. She was like about white privilege and about how I'm such a privileged person, and that I shouldn't center my needs, and that I should, it was like the social justice talking points.
Did you? This might be a bad question, but did you get a sense of like her soul or her character? Like, was she trapped in this? Was she a true believer in this? And did it cause her to be happy or the opposite of happy? Like psychologically
It seemed like,
speaking?
yeah, this teacher was like, she was a young woman. She was younger than I was. I wasn't super young at the time, but she was like definitely at least a decade younger than me. And she was a blonde-haired, light-skinned person who seemed like she had this idea that because her mother was from, I don't remember where she was from, Latin America, I guess. So this was her like get out of jail free card. Like, I'm not actually white. You think I'm white? She said, you would think by looking at me that I'm just a basic bitch and a Becky, but I'm gonna go ahead and check the marginalized box for race because I'm actually not white. And so it was this whole like, I feel like she was clinging to this allyship or this identity of the marginalized person as like social currency, and spent the whole course talking about herself. Just the whole course was like, how I see this through my marginalized eyes, you know.
Marginalized eyes.
I just made that up, but yeah,
that's a good one.
I didn't say that.
But what about anger? So you see this stuff ramping up. You're like, wait, what? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Does it start to cross a line for you where you're like, this is wicked or something like that, where you start to have strong feelings or bad dreams or something like that?
Well, that class was really awful for me. I was like, the first way that I approached it was like personal. It was to say, well, how can you say that these racial differences are so stark? How can you say that? You give us this white privilege checklist and tell us that we're all privileged, but I'm looking at this list and I can't check a lot of these because I did grow up a racial minority and I know what that feels like. So I'm not saying that is, and I guess that was hard for me because I don't want to wave a victim flag. I don't want to do that. I don't think I don't think that that's a healthy mindset, and I'm not going to do that. And just like I wouldn't encourage somebody else to do that, I'm not going to do it myself. But it was my own experiences. And I was saying, look, you can't say that I would check these just because you can look at me and see that I'm light colored.
Yeah.
And so I tried to argue it from that standpoint within the class. And it was really quite a humiliating experience for me. The teacher, I wrote to her about it, and she said, I encourage you to share this in class because this would be a good conversation. So why don't you talk about it in the class? And she used it as an opportunity to ambush me, which was really bad.
You got struggle session by your own teacher.
I did. Yeah. She told me that I needed to, she had me tell my little thing. And so I just gave a little story. It was just like, brief narrative, kind of like what I just said to you. It's not a lot of detail. And she said, I don't remember what her quote was, but I remember the word reparent. She told me that I should go back and reparent myself so that I can be a competent counselor and not do harm to my Latino clients in the future. And she said this out loud in front of the whole class. And it was just like, wow, that is really humiliating. I have always seen this as more of a strength than a weakness. I've always seen this as like, I can understand what it's like to be the underdog, and I can really I can really relate to a feeling of being on the outside. And so this is a strength that I can bring. And she was casting it as I'm the villain now because I was bullied. Now I'm going to be like this vengeful, dangerous therapist in the future who's going to like be seeking revenge against my Latino. And it was like, wow, that's just not a image of myself I ever had. And now you just said that in front of 20 people.
But reparent, so basically she wants you to brainwash yourself to think the way that she does about you.
Yeah, I guess
Like
so.
actually go back into your past and rewrite your historical narrative by being the adult.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really took exception to that phrase, that word
Yeah.
being used. It was incredibly condescending.
Yeah.
So you said anger. I don't know if I ever felt super angry, maybe a little bit, but more, I just felt very misunderstood. And I sort of internalized that. And so it was just really a hard, I was questioning everything, like,
Yeah.
do I leave this program? Do I quit? I mean, I'm older and I'm retraining into a new field. I don't really want to give that up. Yeah, reparenting. Yeah. I was reparenting, I guess. It was just like, I was very confused.
Yeah.
And I did feel a lot of resentment towards what was happening. But I also started to become aware that it was happening everywhere. So I didn't feel like I could leave.
In understanding a little bit more of Doria's educational background, it has me thinking that perhaps maybe she is one of the brains of this whole con of the century that we have been witnessing in this psychological covert operation. And looking at this photo, it's another Photoshop doozy. I'm starting to think that Megan might not even be related to this woman. Since we've been taking the time to go back and look at some of these photos again closer, it does appear that some of the most manipulated photos are the ones that are in black and white. So a couple of things that I want to point out here before we go into the actual detail of it is just take a look at Doria and Megan. So Megan is smiling directly at the camera. Now we know that Megan will find a camera a mile away, but in this case, your mom is celebrating graduating from USC, and here she is just closing her eyes and, laughing as if something was said. And you would think that the two of them would have been engaged in a moment, just as a natural shot. But this doesn't look natural because here Megan is looking dead on, smiling at the camera, and Doria is not. If this is a picture that you're taking of mother and daughter, you would want Doria's eyes to be open. Am I right? So that in itself is odd to me. The other thing that sticks out is that Megan doesn't have a widow's peak on her hairline. So why does she have a widow's peak here in this photo? And the other thing that I find really strange is that in this photo, while it's under a tent and on the grass, why is there someone wearing no shoes? Maybe her feet were hurting, possibly, but kind of bizarre, right? Now, I guarantee that there's some of you out there that are thinking, oh God, there's TRG again. She's reaching, trying to create something that's not there. It's a good thing that I have a save for a rainy day folder because when I went back to it, it just so happens that I had archived these photos that I don't think anyone has seen before of Doria. These are actual photos from Doria's graduation at USC. And the one thing that I want you to notice here is the length of the lei that is around Doria's neck. As you can see, it's pretty thin for the most part, and it goes pretty much towards her navel. That's how far it goes. So now when you compare the two of these photos together, do you now see the difference? You don't need to see the black and white in color to know that they altered it. Look at the photo on the right side. Look how thin and emaciated that lei is compared to how full the one with Megan looks. The other thing is, look at the length of the lei. The one on the right side, Doria's lei goes down to her navel. On the left side with Megan, it literally is right under her rib cage. Given Megan's long track record of manipulating photos and videos from her childhood past, I feel comfortable in saying that, yes, this graduation did happen with Doria, and Doria did graduate from USC, but Megan was not there. And this photo on the left is manipulated, as like other photos that she has manipulated and inserted her face into. Given that there's been so much foolery around this woman, I feel fairly comfortable in saying that Megan might not even be Black. This has all been about controlling what you think and what you believe. I mean, think about how many times you were guilted into not trusting your own eyes and whatever you heard, in believing the garbage that these people have been forcing onto us for the past 8 years now. None of it is true. As we go through these photos and look at these videos and running them through tools and it's coming back saying that it's manipulated, why should anybody believe that this woman says who she is? So now when we look at Doria's story and the gap of time that she allegedly had not been in Megan's life from 5 years to 7 years to 10 years, nobody can really give a pinpoint as to how long Thomas Markle Sr. had been taking care of Megan by himself. You have to ask the question, why is it nobody can provide a straight answer? When you ask the Markles this question, you've got Samantha saying, oh, we were busy, we had our own lives. And then you had Thomas Markle, who said that he raised her all by herself, not really giving any indication where Doria was. You would think if someone did go off for 10 years in a place where they can't get out for 10 years, the family would know. Also, don't you find it weird that Doria got into a highly prestigious program at USC? I'm not saying that it's impossible, but when you look at Doria and the things that we know of her past, she doesn't strike me as someone who is the academic type, the one who's serious about getting out into the workforce and creating a career that is legit and on the straight and narrow. You know what I mean? Perhaps maybe that was the story that was seeded out into the public for it to catch fire and now has become an urban legend. Perhaps maybe Doria didn't go anywhere. Perhaps maybe Doria was living her life as a serious career professional. I mean, it's hard to say that, but maybe that really is the truth. Like, why would this be so far of a stretch to think that maybe Doria is not Megan's mom? Maybe the Markles are not related to Megan. I mean, you look at all the inconsistencies as well as all the manipulations with the photos and the videos and the lies that are being told by everyone around. It's not just Megan. Now, I've stated now on almost every video that I do moving forward that Harry and Meghan are part of a covert influence operation that has been going on from the time that Markle showed up in 2016 and nobody knew who the hell she was to now in where we're seeing them retract, in a sense, back away from a lot of the things and being a little bit more quietly because they've been exposed. But they have conducted this psychological warfare onto innocent people in order to mess with their minds. I hope you're listening, Harry, but we know that the UK has had significant influence here in the United States in this censorship industrial complex. UK and its intelligence agencies have violated many Americans' freedoms, such as our freedom for fair elections, Harry, our freedom to have freedom of speech, Harry, our freedom to have privacy, Harry. But getting back to Doria, honestly, I have no idea as to when Doria graduated from Antioch University. For all we know, she could have graduated early on and the U.S. government swiped her up, and she has been a part of this covert influence operation. Then, through our programs and, grants that our government probably gave, she was able to go to USC to complete her master's while she was plotting and scheming, getting ready to pull off the con of the century with this woman called Meghan Markle. I mean, now take a look at this photo of Doria. It looks like Doria's face is pressed up against the side of a wall. That doesn't look like someone is kissing her cheek. From day one, race was used as the platform for this concocted plan that was premeditated. And we can blame the UK and the United States for being 100% involved with this scam. Harry and Meghan and the people behind them honestly believed that they would have had total control of the online world because they did for a moment when the 2020 election came and then COVID came and how people were getting canceled and censored. And we see what's going on in the UK. I mean, ultimately, that's what the globalists would like to see happen in the United States. I believe truly that they thought within this 4-year plan, this transformation that we're on for these globalists was to get that control of the internet. And the situation with those children in the line of succession would have been a non-starter. Like nobody would have been able to talk about it because it would have been shut down. Even if they existed or not, we saw how we were affected during that window of time when they were colluding with the government. So I truly believe that they thought things were going to be in their favor as a result of having this type of control over the information. But what they didn't see was Elon Musk buying over Twitter and allowing information to flow. And that threw a wrench in the globalist plans, which they're going to double down now to enforce and drive regulation. Here in the United States, these idiot liberals on legacy media are complaining and crying over the fact, oh, we need more regulation on social media, too much mis and disinformation. That's why we had this outcome. The problem that we have here is that this ideology, this Marxism, is so rooted everywhere as a result of this plan that has been going on for decades now. I think we're now seeing it come to the surface as a result of Donald Trump coming in 2016 for us to really recognize how controlled information is and how we are being constantly fed information that is designed to psychologically manipulate us. And thank you, Meghan Markle, for being so terrible at the role or mission that you have been put in, because you just exposed the whole entire thing. You and your dumb husband, who thought you could come over here and change the media landscape and rebuild the online for a better world. Nobody's buying this shit. And that's the thing. These two know that the youth are the only people that are going to listen to them because they're impressionable. So they want to get in early with them in order to groom them, in order to get them into this collectivism and equity, diversity, inclusion, which is the opposite. It's more being racist and holding people back for their gain, for their profit. And I hope more and more people start waking up to the fact, and I hope that investigations are put down on Doria, on Meghan, on Harry, all to uncover their interactions and engagements, not only with our government, but also with the UK government. They play a big role in all of this, in what we have witnessed in this saga. So they share some of the blame for this, anxiety and hurt and harm that people are experiencing online. They are responsible. But that's just my thoughts. But what do you guys think? Definitely leave your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Such a fraud.